Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Entrepreneur. Welcome to my vlogging channel. This is where I talk about life, the universe, and just random thoughts I have. And you saw the title of this video, and you might be wondering what today's subject is. Well, here's the thing. As promised in the video, I have made a big life decision. Now, granted, it's probably not going to seem like that big a deal to some people. However, after many hours of thinking about it and poring over the pros and cons, I have finally made a decision. See, here's the thing. If you know anything about me, you know that I love my physical media. I mean, it's right there. It's behind me. It's on the shelves. It's over there. There's a dirty shirt. So, like I said, vlogging channel. And you also know I'm getting married to a wonderful woman who I cannot wait to spend the rest of my life with. However, she has stuff. I have stuff. And as a result, we have to start doing some, shall we say, reorganizing. We got to Marie Kondo our lives, if you will. We have to start donating shirts we no longer wear anymore, although not this one. This shirt is awesome and it is going to stay here. We have to start putting things in boxes. We are going to be getting storage temporarily. We'll probably have storage until it is time to get a house, which is a few years down the line. And of course, we're going to be getting wedding gifts. There's basically just a lot of stuff, and we need to be getting rid of something. Now, let's go back to the whole physical media thing. I love buying this physical media. I like collecting it. I like owning it. I like knowing that it's never going away. I also like the way physical media feels in many cases. However, with the upcoming marriage, the shrinkage of space, the fact that there is valuable real estate that is being taken up, I've come to the decision that with few exceptions, it might be time for me to give up buying physical books and go all digital. And trust me, this is not an easy decision to make. This took loads and loads of hours of thinking and meditating, even a little bit of prayer. However, at the end of the day, when I look at all the reasons, I cannot justify buying books the way I used to. And keep in mind, I've got a huge book collection. We're talking about shelves of books. There's books in the drawers. I just love books. I almost like books as much as I like movies. However, unlike movies where there seems to be this push from studios to censor art, I see no such push for books. On the contrary, classic books are being preserved. It's not being taken away that I feared it would be. And for that matter, when I really look at my book collection, I have to really stop and ask myself, am I reading this enough? In the sense that basically most books I have, with few exceptions, I've only read once, and in many cases, I haven't even finished said book. And the more and more I thought about it, the more and more I realized that why am I spending time and money buying physical things that I tend to read and then almost discard, and I just end up hoarding it? I may have read this book about Bill Clinton and I may have liked it, and this is a good book. However, I have read it one time in my life, and that was about 7 years ago. It has been sitting in a closet collecting dust and all this stuff, and look at how big it is. I mean, just look at how big this is. This is something that is taking up valuable real estate space, and I don't need it to. I haven't even read this book, and yet I have owned it for 3 years. Apparently, this is the final book in the Dexter series, and I do at some point want to read those. However, until I read those, this book remains unread. It's on a shelf, taking up space that it doesn't need to take up. In fact, the fact that I even need 7 or 8 other books just to read this one means that this might become even more intrusive than it already is. This is a book I haven't even finished. Granted, I did like it. I just kind of fell out of it at some point because life got busy and other books came along. It was good, but not good enough to finish, although the movie kind of filled in the blanks and it wound up pretty much exactly where I was expecting it to go. And then you have books like this. This is one of my favorite autobiographies. I have actually read this a few times in my life. That said, again, it's a huge book. And this very same book I could be reading on my Kindle or my Nook, enjoying it just as equally, and it won't be taking up space. And as I started putting more and more of these books into box after box, and after I realized I had gotten to like 4 or 5 boxes of books, that I was desperately trying to store someplace, and yet I had not reread them in years. It kind of dawned on me, what am I doing? I mean, seriously, what am I doing? Why am I storing these books? The digital copies of the books are typically cheaper than the hardcover. They don't take up space. You are unlikely to have it be removed from your device, at least before you read it. And here's the other thing. The books typically do not gain any value. The resale value of a book is very, very low unless it happens to be a really popular book and you happen to read it within the first few weeks of it being released. Then you might be lucky to get a third of what you paid for it back on eBay or Amazon. Most of the time, you sell them for $1 or $2 at the garage sale. And look, I definitely like the idea of having a bookshelf of books. In fact, one of the exceptions to this is that I do want to, when we get a house, have a full, proper bookshelf. However, it will be a very deliberate bookshelf that mainly consists of classics, personal favorites or personal favorites and classics, and in some cases, authors that I really like with covers that are just really, really neat looking. Outside of that, though, I think my book buying days in terms of physically buying books may be coming to an end. As part of the process of dealing with this, I was looking at books that I had wanted to read for a while. One of those books was Who Whacked Roger Rabbit. Now, I could have bought it in paperback for $20 and found a place to store it after I had read it one time. Instead, I went and I bought it for $3 on my Kindle. It was $10 on Nook. That's why I bought it on Kindle. Yes, it bothers me that I did that. And, well, I've read more than 60% of the book. I will probably finish it next week, and then I will never read it again. However, now that it's digital, it is on my device for however long it needs to be there. Maybe it'll get taken away someday. I don't know. However, as long as it's there, I can read it. For that matter, another reason is I could take all of these books, like the Steve Jobs book, the Stephen King books, the Harry Potter books. They can all go on my Kindle or Nook device, preferably Nook, and I can take them with me wherever I want. So if I feel like rereading them on a trip, I don't have to pick and choose which book I might be in the mood to read while I'm on that trip. Now, there are some exceptions to the rules. First of all, I did show those classic books because when I make the ultimate bookshelf, me and Katie have already discussed this, and Barnes & Noble has these classic book series, all the favorites, Alice in Wonderland, Charles Dickens, there's a Star Wars book, there's a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, there is a King James Bible that are in leather bound and they have the gold rims. To get the entire set is like $980. We have both agreed to slowly save for this, and these will be the cornerstone of a classic literature bookshelf somewhere down the line. Signed books, by the way, will also be another exception. I will not get rid of my signed books. I do love collecting autographs. Signed books are the easiest and best way to get signed stuff because Barnes & Noble authorizes them, as do other book publishers. So I'm just going to have to figure out what to do with these books. And then the final thing I probably would buy physical, even with digital as an option, is manga, particularly manga, and some comics, because comics tend to go out of print and manga licenses are lost. I own the entire Kara Kano series, aka His or Her Circumstances, which was released by Tokyo Pop. Now, I love this series, and ever since it went out of print, I have not been able to rebuy it, and many of these books go for a lot of money, and that provides me with two reasons why to have it. First of all, if I am ever in a need for money, it does have more value than what I spent on it. However, the other value it has is that obviously I can still read this. However, even with that in mind, I'm changing my buying habits when it comes to manga and comics, because with the Comixology app, which yes, I know is owned by Amazon, I will talk about that in a moment, and the Shonen Jump app, there are tons of comics and manga I can read for what is essentially $8 a month. And I don't have to store them, I don't have to worry about reselling them, so I can cut back on buying a lot of comics and manga and save a lot of money. Because here's the thing, as much as I love One Piece, I don't need to buy over 100 books of it. In fact, let's go back to Comixology for a second because my hatred for Amazon is very, very well known. I think they're an immoral company and I really try not to buy anything from them. However, I do have a couple Kindle devices that were extremely cheap and, they work fine. And the Comixology app, even though Amazon owns it, it will save me $60 to $80 a month just on comics that I want to read that I now no longer have to buy. As someone who has to start watching his finances a little bit more because I have someone to take care of and there might be a baby on the day one day, it I guess I'm just gonna have to bite the bullet. I'm actually kind of understanding why some people feel they need to get Amazon. Now, I am only doing one service and I still will not get things like Prime. However, it does make sense. And in terms of my mission to go all digital for most of my reading, it's a perfect help. It really does help in the long run, keeping me restrained from buying comics and manga I know I will probably never read again. And you know what? Let's say the worst case scenario happens. Let's say one day Amazon or even Barnes & Noble decides they no longer want me to have that copy of Purity by Jonathan Franzen on my Nook or Kindle, and they take it off. That would suck, yes, because it cost me $5 to buy digitally. However, I highly doubt I will ever reread that book. Yeah, I enjoyed it, but it's got long words. The sentences are very complicated. It's honestly not even that much fun to read sometimes. I think it's more interesting and fascinating to read than it is enjoyable. So I will probably never reread it again, despite the fact that I really did enjoy the process of reading it. And here's the thing, digital, when it comes to ebooks, it's not the same as physical books. Yes, I do prefer how books feel. However, the ebooks have their own charm too. The Kindles have the little buttons that make flipping through pages easier, and with the Nook, you can actually turn the pages manually, so it kind of feels like a book. You're just putting your your finger over a LCD screen as opposed to paper. And I am a little bit of an environmentalist, so as much as I like physical media, there is part of me that acknowledges that we probably should be killing less trees to make books. If we can get the same enjoyment of a book on a digital device and we can preserve those trees, I think that's ultimately a good thing. So even though this probably factors very, very little into my overall decision, it's just one more bonus. And so as a result, in 2 months, I will be going into full-blown e-book mode. I am going to be looking through all my books and books that I really might want to reread again, but don't have particularly great editions for the books. I will buy on the Nook or the Kindle and have it digitally. And with the exception of like the Harry Potter series and personal favorites like those series, they will be going in a box. I will be taking them to Book Off because Dimple Records is apparently closing. I will take whatever they give me. I know it's not going to be much. And then I will have a ton of space freed up, but I can still read on my Kindle and Nook. And I have to say, it's weird to actually come to this decision. I never thought I would be one of those people who would say, I'm just going to go digital. And I still won't. I still like to buy CDs. I still like to buy movies. I do not trust Hollywood to not tamper with the art. And besides, stuff on Netflix goes away all the time. However, on a side note, since I do have a certain amount budgeted for streaming services, as long as something is on the streaming service, I probably will not buy that show or movie as long as it's there. And then when it leaves, if I find I really have to rewatch it again, I will then buy it physically. However, I will be allocating my funds for movies and shows that do not pop up on streaming services or discs that are in 3D that I got to import because nobody streams 3D anymore. And I'm sure I will go through a bit of a withdrawal period. However, it will be worth it to turn this into this. However, that's my opinion. What do you folks think? Are any of you out there fully digital readers? Have you, I don't know what the term is. Have you retired the printed wood for good and switched to digital ink? Have you seen the light? Do you like a mixture of both? Do you not want to get rid of your books at all? What says you? I would love to know. So comment below. like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly, and you get access to my Patreon's exclusive vlog. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.